Hey guys, and welcome back to Edge3D CGI. So in this tutorial series we're going to go ahead and create this cartoony house. So this tutorial series is aimed at beginners, so if you just started out with modeling in Maya and playing around with shaders and so on, then hopefully you guys will find this helpful. If you're a bit more advanced, you probably find this a bit boring, so I advise you to go ahead and skip to something more advanced. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you the mesh. So this is the actual house we're going to be creating. This is the wireframe of it, so you can see what bits we're going to go ahead and create. And if you notice, this is all subdivision modeling, so everything we can go ahead and smooth, and that will go ahead and make it look a lot nicer. Okay, so the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and create a new scene, so I can get rid of this. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn back my grid. Okay, so the first thing that you might want to do is you might want to change your background color, and you can do that by pressing Alt and B. Okay, so I normally when I present stuff I use the black, but normally when I model I go ahead and use this one. It depends on the mesh and your personal preference. Okay, so next thing you're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and go through your layout first of all. So let's go ahead and go to Window, or Display, sorry, and then go to UI Elements, and if you click this little tear sort of button, you can go ahead and tear that panel off. And what this lets you do is you can go ahead and turn stuff off, like the range slider and time slider that we don't really use for modeling. So you can go ahead and turn off your time slider, your range slider, and your help line. And you can even go ahead and turn off your command line, because we're not going to be doing any scripting. Okay, we'll need our toolbox and attribute editor and so on, so we'll leave that on. Let's go ahead and turn this off, and there's our scene. Also go to panel or renderer and turn back to default quality rendering. And if you don't have the attribute editor on the right side, you can go ahead and press Ctrl A, and that will switch in between the channel box and the layer editor and the attribute editor. Okay, so that's Ctrl A to switch in between these two windows. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to introduce you guys to a little bit to subdivision modeling. I'll probably go ahead and create a separate video that will go in more depth with this. So let's just go ahead and give you guys a quick introduction. So I'm going to go ahead and create a cube in here. Okay, and as you can see, this is just a standard cube, and if you wanted to go ahead and smooth this, we can go ahead and press 3 on our keyboard. And as you can see, it will give you a preview of what this mesh would look like if you went ahead and smoothed it. And basically 3 is subdivision level 3. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, you can go ahead and go to mesh and go to smooth and click on the little box on the side. And this will give you the smooth options. Okay, so this cube at the moment is on the 4 faces, and we can go ahead and give this an extra division level by using this smooth option. So let's go ahead and give it a smooth division level 1, press apply. And as you can tell, now this smoothed our cube. So basically now it has some extra faces. If you go ahead and smooth it once more, that's smooth division level 2. And we can also go ahead and smooth this one more time, and that will give us what the smooth mesh preview is. Okay, so basically when you go ahead and make a cube, where is it? Let's go ahead and make another one, sorry. Okay, so I'll just drag one out. Now I press 3. Basically it's giving you this preview. Okay, so we can go ahead and let's go ahead and crack on with modeling. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and create the house base. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is create a cube again. And if your interactive creation is not turned on, you can go to create polygon primitives, and you can go ahead and turn the interactive creation on or off. I normally have this turned off because it's a lot easier to go ahead and create the cube, and it will go ahead and create it in the center of our grid. Okay, so we created our cube, and let's go ahead into our front view, and let's just quickly go ahead and go through how to switch in between viewports. So the first thing that you normally notice, if I just press space, that you have different viewports, and hopefully you're already familiar with these. But the way I change viewports is you can go ahead and press space every time. So if I click in here and then press space, it will go into that viewport, and I can switch in between here like this. But I find this really slow, so what I do is I hold down space, click on the Maya icon, okay, click and drag, and then go ahead and click, let go off my mouse where I want to go. So if I want to go into my front view, I just drag my mouse over it and then let go, okay, and it will switch into my different viewports. And I find this a lot faster, and I guess I would advise you guys to get used to that as well. So once we have our cube created, let's go ahead and go into our front view and position this on the grid. Now if you wanted to make sure that this is right exactly on the grid, you can go ahead and move our pivot point by pressing insert on our keyboard, okay, and if we select that axis and then hold down V on our keyboard, as you can see the little pivot will change, and if you middle mouse button to one of the vertices on the mesh, it will go ahead and snap down to that vert. Okay, so once we've done that, we can press insert again, and as you can see our pivot is moved to the bottom of the mesh and not in the center. Once we have that, we can go ahead and snap this cube onto the grid by selecting that axis, because I only want it to snap downwards, okay, and then if I hold down X on my keyboard, it will go ahead and snap to the grid instead of a vertice. Okay, so holding down X, middle mouse button, okay, and then clicking on the grid, and that will perfectly position our cube where we want it to. So let's go ahead and start blocking out the basic shape for our house. So we're going to go ahead and do that by accessing vertex mode. So let's go ahead and select all them top vertices and drag it up a little bit. Okay, once we have that, we're going to go ahead and select all the back vertices, and we're going to go ahead and drag them out. Okay, and hopefully you're already familiar with moving vertices around and so on. So I'm just using the move tool, selecting the vertices and pushing them around. Okay, so that looks like a pretty good base for our house. Let's go ahead and move this. And again, because we moved our pivot, we just I'm just dragging in this direction so it stays on the grid. Okay. Alright, so that looks like a pretty good base for our house. Now let's go ahead and see what happens if we smooth this. As you can see, it will turn into a sphere, and the reason for that is because when you go ahead and smooth this, what it's trying to do is it's basically going to go ahead and smooth in between these two edges. If I wanted to go ahead and keep this edge really hard, I could go into my edit mesh, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tear this panel off, okay, and then go into our insert edge loop tool, and we can go ahead and add in a couple of edges here. So I want to add one there and add one here, and you'll see in just a moment why we're doing this. Now when you're adding in edge loops or supporting edges like this, what you want to pay attention is that you want to keep these faces in here roughly square, okay, and that will give you the best smoothing results. So now I'm adding one there as well, okay, and let's go ahead and add one on the bottom as well. Okay, and let's go ahead and add one on the back as well, just to demonstrate. So now if we go ahead and smooth this and press 3, as you can see, it will keep our shape as a cube instead of turning this into a cylinder or a sphere. And the reason for that is because now this knows that we only want to go ahead and smooth in between these two edges. Okay, so this edge and that edge, it will go ahead and smooth in between here. Now you'll also notice that we'll go ahead and push the supporting edges further in. And we can go ahead and stop that by splitting up these long faces. So we can go back into our insert edge loop tool, You can go to multiple edge loops and let's set it to be 2. And we can go ahead and add 2 in here. Okay, let's go ahead and add in 4 this way. Now if you notice, when we go ahead and smooth this edge doesn't move as much as it did before. And also we should really go ahead and add in a couple of extra edge loops here as well to stop this edge from moving in too much. Okay, so this is really the basics of subdivision hard surface modeling. So let's go ahead and get rid of these edges quickly, and let's go ahead and start blocking out the main shape that we need. So the first thing that you always want to go ahead and do is you want to go ahead and block out the main shape first, and then you would want to go ahead and add in all the supporting edges. So now I'm just going to go ahead and delete these because I only added them to demonstrate what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this loop as well. And all I'm doing is I'm double clicking and then shift right click to delete the edge. Okay, and that will delete the edge. If you go ahead and you have an edge here, and let's say I'll go ahead and double click and press delete on the keyboard instead of shift right click and delete edge, what you will notice is that the vertices for the edge loop stay there. So you really want to avoid this and use the delete edge feature in Maya. So you double click the edge loop and then shift right click delete the edge, and if you notice now the vertices are not there anymore. So I just get rid of these really quickly. Okay, and let's go ahead and add the top half of the house. So let's go ahead and select this face, and I'm changing between the modes by right clicking on the object, but hopefully you're already familiar with this. Let's go ahead and select that top face. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and extrude. So I'm just clicking extrude, pressing W on my keyboard, and we're going to go ahead and drag this up. Now if you notice, when we deleted one of the edges, now it's still there, so we're going to have to go ahead and get rid of that in just a second. But while this face is still selected, what I'm going to do is press scale on my keyboard, and we're going to go ahead and scale this in to give us the top half of the house. Okay, so I'm just scaling this in. Let's say something like this. Okay, and obviously you can make your own house. I'm just making one as an example. So I'm just double clicking the edge and get rid of that. Okay, so basically this is going to be our main shape for our house that we're going to go ahead and start off with. Okay, and now that this main shape is somewhat blocked off, we can go ahead and start adding in the edge loops, so we can go ahead and smooth this. So let's go ahead and do that. So go into my insert edge loop tool, and before I go ahead and do that, open up the option box and let's go ahead and reset the tool because I only want to add in a couple of edges. So let's go ahead and start off by adding in the edge on the bottom. Okay, and then let's go ahead and add in these edges as well. Okay, so I'm adding one on the top half as well. Now here you will notice that when we go ahead and add in an edge loop here, it doesn't add it at the right place there, but we can always go ahead and move that later on. Let's just go ahead and add in the main edges for now. Okay, so we'll also need one on the top here. So basically you want to have 2 supporting edges for each main edge that you have. So let's go ahead and smooth this and see how it's looking. Okay, so if you notice, this is sort of the rough shape that we had for the house that I made. And the reason why this is still smoothing a lot is because we didn't add in the edge loops there. But what I did want is I wanted a smooth curve going around here. Now if you go ahead and smooth this, as you can see, it's pretty smooth, but it's not quite right. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and give this some more edges that Maya can go ahead and smooth. So I'm just going to add in an edge loop around here. Okay, then press R on my keyboard to scale, and I'm going to go ahead and push this out a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time. So I had one there, press R on my keyboard, smooth it out a little bit more. I probably want to go ahead and drag this up a bit more actually. just to give this a nicer smooth. So now if you smooth it, if you notice, this curve looks a lot nicer. Okay, but we did want to fix this edge loop. Okay, so we can go ahead and add in an extra edge loop in here if you want it to, and that will give it pretty close to where we need it. Or we can just go ahead and move this edge where we need it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go into our front view. And we're going to go ahead and select the vertices that we want to move. So I'm shift dragging those vertices. And there as well. Okay, and these guys. I can press V on my keyboard to go ahead and start moving these guys around. And now what I'm paying attention to is this top edge. Okay, once that guy's at the right place, I'm going to go ahead and shift, select, deselect. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this guy's at the right place. Once it is, shift, drag around it to deselect it, and then move this guy as well. Okay, so now that looks really good. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on this half. So shift, select all of them. Okay. Move the top vert where I want it. Once it's there, shift deselect. Do the same thing to the one layer down. And to that one as well. So now you'll notice that when we go ahead and smooth this, this is going to look pretty good. Now we can go ahead and deselect these edges so they are not highlighted anymore. Okay, so now you'll notice that this edge is still really smooth. Now we can go ahead and move this top edge loop a bit closer to the edge and see if that looks a little bit better. And that's still really smooth. Okay, so what we can do, and the reason for that is because this this face is really long, so it will go ahead and push this edge in all the way in here. Now if you notice, if you add in another edge loop here, it will move our next edge a lot less. Okay, so the first edge will stay nearly where it's supposed to be. Okay, so that will make this edge a lot harder than it is, and I'm having some craziness going on, or it seemed like I did. No, it seems like it's fine. Now what you'll also notice is here, where we added in these edge loops and we moved the verts, now this is not in enough, so you can just go ahead and go into our front view, select all of these top vertices, and we can just push them in a tiny bit, okay, to carry on with that curve. Okay, so that looks really nice for our base house. And in the next part, we're going to go ahead and start adding in the door, the windows, and so on. And then eventually we'll go ahead and get to the roof part as well. What I do want to do though is the same thing that we've done on this side. Okay, we want to go ahead and add in an edge loop in the center, or roughly in the center, or we can add one, two on each side. So you might want to go ahead and do that. So again, multiple edge loops too, and I just add in two there. Okay, and that will give us a lot nicer smooth. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the first part of this modeling series. Make sure you guys leave a comment, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the second part.